All right, so I guess we're ready to move on to the next segment. Uh,
I think we are. We
okay.
pretty much covered that. This is going to be more or less we're fleshing out our format, and we're getting our kind of set up for what it is that we're going to be doing and how we're doing it. But this is more or less kind of where we're going to go with these things. And so I guess yeah, we're pretty much ready to kind of start peeling away the layers of the onion, so to speak, and we're going to get to the heart of what the episode today is going to be. And I believe, Chris, we've agreed that the material warrants a two-part episode. So this is episode one of two regarding the book itself, and taking apart the intricacies of the story. So for those that are real fans of Battlestar Galactica like us, we've actually been holding back, and we've been reading this stuff for years. We have never let it go away. We never let it die. And so we've looked for different ways of enjoying the show, and one of them is reading the books besides just watching it, right? So I kind of think
All
that's
right.
a
So
little bit of where we're going to go.
all right. So let's get this started. Ready? I've put this thing
Yes.
together. I put this thing together. It took me a while.
Book versus episode. Bang, boom.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's a lot of
Chris,
work.
got to tell you, man, it looked good, but I'm not too sure about those sound effects, man.
Oh, come on. Yeah, that's the low budget version, or actually not of it.
That's the
It's gonna
Science,
just like the show. It's gonna grow as time goes on. Uh,
Mystery Science 3000. That's a little bit of that. That's what's going on. All right. Well, look. Bottom line is, why did we decide to choose this theme and make it our debut episode, right? So what was kind of behind it? Personally, I'll tell you from my end, I enjoyed the books, right? I did my first book for movie wise was one of the other major franchises. It was a George Lucas franchise, but once I had read that one, and I was elementary school, and when I saw Battlestar Galactica, the book itself, after I'd seen the show itself, the 3 hour debut, the epic. I went out and I picked up the book. I saw it in the bookstore, and I jumped right into it. I've read it a couple of times since then, and from there, um, there was talk from time to time. Personally, I knew that there were some um, original changes, ideas, rewrites, and it took me many, many years to get to the point where we are now, to be able to analyze the actual changes that had been rumored and talked about. And I mean, let's face it, anyone that's into any kind of a show, whether it's big fans of a particular movie or a TV show, we all realize that there's going to be edits, there's going to be changes
oh
to
yes.
a screenplay, right? And for that matter, there's going to be changes to a story from pre-production, from concept phase, all the way to to the day they're actually editing, and post-production will change a show anyway. So, but we've discovered on our own that there's nuances that exist out there in the world of Battlestar Galactica and novels. And so, with that said, I am going to throw this over to you, Chris, and then we'll peel away some more of those, levels of what we're getting at.
Right, right. So, like Pete was saying, we did a lot of research in the different types of books. So, I'm just going to show you quick. We'll go ahead and bring up the things that we've looked at. So, these are just some of the versions. Pete's going to talk a little bit more about each version, but these are the versions we looked at. We looked at a number of different ones, and everybody's probably thinking to themselves, they're all the same. And Pete's going to tell you a little bit different on that. I got news for you. There are some slight differences. So start at the top left. It's one of the books that I finally found. I've been looking for that book for a really long time. That was the original blue cover book that they gave out at a convention. Then we go over to the next one, which is the book from Australia. Um, and then the bottom left is the book from Canada. And then, of course, the bottom two right are the United States versions. One is just the regular version, and one says special edition. So far, we haven't found anything different between the U.S. versions of the special edition and the regular one. But I want you to know we really went into the research on this to find out if there was, what was the difference on these. So we found out multiple. There are other editions out there, of course. There's different languages. I'm sure they're going to be interpreted differently that way. There's the Scholastic one we didn't bother to look at because it was built for the kids. So those ones we kind of just pushed aside. We know they exist. Maybe if you know there's another version out there that we're missing, hey, let us know. We also started looking at the script. We do have a copy of the original script. It's one of the final edits. The original script was edited so many times. Like the guys were complaining that the script was edited like 20 minutes before they did their scenes sometimes. So, but and then we looked online and found some interesting stuff. Pete, you want to tell them a little about the interview that you found?
Oh yeah. So over the years, like Chris was saying, we've actually paid attention to some of the nuances because they affect the story. There's different names and titles for some of the ships and things that we hold dear and near to our hearts in terms of loving Battlestar Galactica and other shows, but today it's specifically Battlestar Galactica, and we'll bring those up as we get into this. However, there have been fanzines, early stages of the internet. There were a lot of Battlestar Galactica actual web pages. And back in the early days, a lot of the fans that were into this, they had also accumulated, like Chris and I, a lot of information on their own. And way before the advent of the web and being able to just send someone an email or contact someone or Facebook's social media, there was pen to paper, and some of the older fans actually did that, and one of them was able to contact none other than Robert Thurston. So for those that are familiar with the books, the Battlestar Galactica adaptations of the story itself, you'll notice that the books are by Glenn Larson and Robert Thurston. It turns out that Robert Thurston did the bulk of, well, actually, he did all of the writing of the book, right? I mean, it's Glenn Larson's
Right.
story. It's Glenn Larson's, it's his, but Thurston did the full adaptation for the novels.
Right.
We found, well, actually, I stumbled on the interview, or an interview that was done by someone named Susan J. Paxton, and she was directly related to a fanzine known as Anomaly, and in their one of the 1988 actual fanzines, don't know which one. We're going to try to track that down. At least I will, Chris. There was they published this interview with Robert Thurston, and it sheds a lot of light on this idea of were there any changes in the story itself of the original Battlestar Galactica, whether the story being the movie, the book itself, the screenplay, and the getting right to it. Of course, there was. Now, we showed you an image of all the different books, and we were able to get the different copies and then look at them. And Chris, he led the charge on that. He spent a heck of a long time comparing and looking. And this interview with Robert Thurston, he is quoted as saying the books were not actually aimed at a juvenile audience. So that covers the Scholastic.
Mm-hmm.
Scholastic itself had the books edited, right?
Yes.
So that's one copy. We're not going to focus, you mentioned, on that. However, the Thurston interview, which printed out is 3 pages long, it's excellent. It says that there were many changes done in the novelization as the film script changed. Each week or so, I would receive new script pages. New pages were in different colors, which presented new writing and indirect material cut out and I diligently tried to incorporate each change into the novelization. Actually, this was one of the more exciting things about this particular novelization. Features of it were always changed in the way one alters a clay figure. However, the book was done several months ahead of the TV premiere, which explains some of the major differences between the film and the novelization. And the most important one,
Right.
as I am sure you already know, was the nature of the Cylons. So he goes into that a little bit more, and we'll bring that back up later as we
Yes.
delve more into this.
It's
And
later in chapter 2's really got a lot of good information on Cylons.
oh man, it's pretty good. But I thought that might be a pretty decent segue, a quote right from Thurston himself,
Yep.
and this is back in 1988, and I was surprised that, in fact, he also goes on to say something about that there was a Canadian edition, a special edition with a blank blue cover that was handed out over the at that year's ABA convention, and it
Right.
contains
That's that
original
one.
text.
Yeah.
So, that's that blue and white cover, but it seems that that may not be the one that we were looking for. However, Chris actually hunted down one of these, and we now have in our possession. It's the Chris, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Canadian version.
Yep. So the
That
Canadian
has
version, the Canadian version and the blue version are exactly the same, and
and
they're
that
unedited.
right. So you happen to have the blue and white cover
Yes.
edition. I don't, unfortunately. I was outbid, as a matter of fact, Chris. I don't know
Probably
if it
by
was
me.
you, right? Yeah, I think it was you, as a matter of fact. So I do not possess that one, but in Chris's kind heart, he found an extra copy of the Canadian one, and now I am the proud owner of the Canadian one. So we have been off camera and prior, leading up to the show itself, we've been discussing this. And so, Chris, let's start talking about this. Let's
right.
start getting into this slowly but slowly, little by little. Let's start, peeling away those layers. And why don't you,
All
take
right,
it from here
let's
then?
jump into it then. Hang on.
Core systems transferring control to probe craft. Launch when ready.
All right, we're launching.
Perfect.
So, one of the things that I'll throw out there, this is a PG audience. So, one of the things that Thurston did say is the original unedited version had more sex words and more stronger language that was in it. So it's not 50 Shades of Grey or anything. But
No,
for
and
1977, it's
I
pretty.
there is
yeah.
no profanity.
No.
No.
No. So that we can confirm. He said that he knew the blue version was the original script, or original. It was unedited, and he said I thought the Canadian one was too. And we can confirm now that if you find a Canadian version, it is the unedited version. It's the same version as the blue version. There's no difference in those two. The other versions, they have words leaked out. Even though if you go through the book and say, hey, they all got 244 pages or whatever it is, that doesn't mean anything because each chapter has white spaces on each one. So some chapters are a little longer on that white space. So yeah, Canadian version and the blue version. So we'll launch the Viper. So
Come on, Chris.
Go ahead.
One second. I want to try to make sure that anyone that's interested, right? Sorry I cut you off, but I want to make sure that anyone that wants to know what do they have to look for so that they can get this particular copy, right? Because it looks a lot like this one, right?
Yep.
Not this. It's easy. You can tell that it's not this other one. However, if they were to kind of follow up with you and what you're saying,
Yes.
they have to look for this, and inside of it, it's going to tell them what.
It's the easy way to find it. It says on the top left-hand corner. Oops, there's the camera. I hope the focus is right. Right there, it says. Okay, I need a better camera. That's one of my goals. Anyways, top left-hand corner of the front page, it says Totem. TOTEM.
Totem.
That is the
And
Canadian version. They're
Right,
not
so
as hard to find if you look. But the problem I've had is like you go on Amazon and you see the book cover and you say, that's the book I want, and you order it for like $1.50 or $2, and you get that. And you're like, that's not the book I ordered. And they're like, well, sorry, that's the book we had. so it's sometimes it's hit and miss. If you gotta find a place that has it. I found a couple of off-brand places that have it. So, we're excited to show you the differences between the episode, the movie, and the two books. And the two books, the two different two editions of the books. So we're starting right off the front of the front cover. If we open up the front cover of the book and we start opening the book, and it blows you. Hang on, I'll let Starbucks say it the best here. All I can say is
What?
what? You look at the front cover of this thing and you open it up. You're like, yeah, it's just Battlestar Galactica. I know the story. I've read this as a kid or whatever else. When you go back and reread it, there's some things in there that it's amazing. So, for instance, we'll go ahead and go to this the very first page, very first sentence of the very first page, and it's not even in the Yadama journals, which we'll talk a little bit about later on. This is that's the sentence.
All right, so you're seeing what it says there. The flagship of the 12 Worlds War Fleet. She was as big as a planet, yet as swift as the Starhound fighters she launched from her bay. What is going on here? So first thing, we have to go, from top to bottom. All right, so it says that it was the size of a what? It's the size of. Wait a minute. I thought if I go back to my well-read, and my one of my star possessions is the original book. It says she was as large as a planet.
Yep.
Okay.
It's large as a planet. Large as a planet.
Yeah.
It's one. Yeah. I think it's the American or the Canadian or the English version.
Says it's as large as a city.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Yes, you're right, Chris. It's the UK, Australia, New Zealand version that says it is flagship of the 12 Worlds War Fleet. She was as large as a city.
Yeah.
Wow.
So which one is it? Is it a city or a planet? But either way, that's not the Galactica we know. I mean, there's no way. That's not the Galactica that we saw in the series. The series is totally different than the book when it comes down to that.
Chris,
so this is the first sentence.
Did you ever wonder how is it that they can go from the actual flight deck, the landing bay, and get up to the bridge in no time?
Especially if it's as big as a planet.
Right. Never mind the size of a city. I mean.
Well, I guess why you look at some of the in some of the episodes where they had the guys in the very first episodes, they were all crammed into that car, zooming to their Vipers. They're all in that the launch bay.
Yeah, but then how the hell did they get back up? I can see that going from their quarters all the way to the launch bay, but how did they get back up to the bridge?
Oh,
how does like Apollo
turbo lift,
Boomer and Star? We're like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
What is going on? But
So
whatever, man. I mean,
yeah,
look,
we have more information
is
about the
what it is.
size later on. It actually
Yeah.
works a little bit more inside of chapter 1. We're not even in
Right.
chapter 1 yet.
get into
Uh,
that yet.
so
But
also,
we did
but the
mention
other, go ahead.
Starhound.
Yep, Starhound fighters. I mean, what's that? What the heck is a
Oh,
Starhound
man.
fighter? Now, in the
Oh,
book,
man.
it does refer to them as vipers later on. In the
Yes.
first,
Yes.
it's very late towards the first chapter, they finally mention a viper. So there's been some rumors back and forth on the Starhound thing, that Starhound was the class. Like, the ships in the Navy have classes of ships, like the Iowa class battleship included the Iowa, the Wisconsin, the New Jersey. Those classes had different names. So maybe it was that. Also, there's rumors that it was just that was just another name for them. But that's just the first sentence we're looking at, and I want to bring up what we always see, and we'll see this again later on. But it says flagships of the 12 Worlds War Fleet. Fleet,
Yes.
not fleets.
Correct.
So we get more information about that later on. So this is definitely not the Galactica we're familiar with. I really think, I like the idea. Of course, this was all called, the original series was supposed to be called Adam's Ark, which
Yes,
was what.
that's correct. Yeah.
So you think of an ark, you put up, two of everything on the ark. It had to be a really large thing. So I think that's where Galactica is. And we talk, and there's stay with us for episode 2. There's more information on the size of the Battlestar and other things from that. So we won't kill that one. Won't do too far into that. Don't want to spoil that one.
Right. There's some really good stuff that's actually stayed with me since I was a kid when I first read this. There's some comments, and I believe they're from Adama's journal, and I was like, wow, that is really cool. You could have made an episode or 2 just on some of the comments that he had made in those interludes in the Adama journals, which are kind of between the chapters. I remember going back and reading Adama journals back to back.
Right.
And just skipping the chapters.
Just skipping the
chapters.
So cool. Yeah.
That's
so we finally get off. If we go off the first page and we finally get to the next page, we finally get in there. We're like, hey, we're going to start chapter 1, right? No. There's these great little insights in front of every single chapter that kind of carried over to the show. Adama would dictate in some of the shows. In the beginning, you see him dictating into something, and also I think the author, Mr. Thurston, he gave us a little bit more of an insight to what the commander thought or what was going on in these Adama journals. They kind of give a really in-depth look at what Adama was thinking. So in this first one, it really starts to get into a backstory. So the backstory is there. It's good. You want to talk about the backstory, Pete?
Well, yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, some of the comments that a lot of sci-fi fans, even Galactica fans, they would always bring up inevitably was, the shows themselves were fast paced, and when I first watched it, I was along for the ride. It didn't mean that I didn't question, like context, right? So you never seem to spend too much time in one thought, one idea, setting, or otherwise. You're moving forward, right? So the Cylons are always after you. They're always pushing the story forward. You got to be worried. You're always looking, to see who's on your back, right? What's going on your 6. So I just, went along with that. In the book, you get all that context that you wonder about. It's like, so what is really going on? Like, where's the the story of how we got to that point, right? What about backstory to the Cylons, backstory to the piece, right? All of a sudden, out of where does this huge Baltar wanting to or manipulating the concept or people's collective mind, where they want to, they're desperate for peace, Chris. They're
Yes.
so desperate that a lot of individuals that we see, that we know, question where they're going with it. But for the sake of let's stop, man. Their mankind, their colonies have been under this war for so long, and that's where you
Yeah,
get the context from, the
1,000 years.
backstory.
Yeah, you imagine
1,000
1,000
years.
years. That's
Oh yeah,
so,
right.
and Adama starts off. He says, he's how it started. He's like, he equated the Cylons to pirates. That
Yes.
and he says, that one of the things I like about it, because I'm a Cylon kind of guy. They've opened fire on merchant ships. Darn merchant ships! We should destroy them all. So they opened fire on merchant ships and destroyed merchant ships by the thousands. Right, and that's before the Cylons attacked the homeworlds.
Yes. And
Oh.
there's also mention of the colonies going to the assistance of a race.
Yeah. Well, that's in chapter 2.
Is it?
Yes,
Is it?
That's where this doesn't
Is it?
match up. This doesn't match up.
Ah,
Yeah, so this doesn't
that's
match up.
right.
This part of it doesn't match up with that part of it. So we saw it in the movie. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Got to hold on. We'll
Yeah.
get to that.
All right. All
Unless
right.
you guys read ahead, you guys can buy the book and read ahead on us. That's okay too. We'd love that.
Yeah, that's
Well,
okay,
hopefully,
too. We don't mind.
hopefully we get a little better. We'll actually be able to take comments, and I haven't quite worked that one out yet. But
We'll
so
get there.
so they attack the things by thousands, and they finally, the Cylons attacked the base world, home worlds, and the attack was unsuccessful. We tried. Like when I say we tried, so for 1,000 years after that, they're back and forth on all these different worlds. They're always doing the same thing. So, and then but now they're looking for this 1,000 year, this 1,000 years. They're looking for peace. They're desperate for peace, and Adama has a great a sentence in here I want to share with everybody. Let's see if I got it here. Let's see, here it is. So I like this. It kind of gives you the idea of the political climate between the military and the politicians that kind of carry throughout the entire series. They're always back and forth with the politicians. So it's the more we moved away from the facts that formed the structure of our design, the more we became like the politicians who governed us. Men and women who had clouded their minds with the words of power that they misunderstood words of the powerful when they smilingly offered peace. I like that sentence a lot.
Wow.
So, they were. It tells you, say, hey, they were blind, and Adama knows they're blind. So we get to see that a little bit more in chapter 1, how he goes back and forth with Adar, of course. And here we are. We're not even chapter 1 yet.
Yeah. So that actually illustrates the richness of the written word and how Thurston's able to give us context and give us a lot to think about in the written word. Whereas the visual, when we saw the actual movie itself,
Right.
You're taking a lot of stuff in and you're taking in dialogue. Whereas this, the book itself has an opportunity to give us the context. And there's different nuances in the written word, and that's
Yes.
obviously that's part of Thurston's his gift. This is his thing, right? Professional writer. He'd been writing for years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he's
And
written a
this
lot
was
of books.
a sci-fi wwriter, and
Yep.
it's just great. It really is. It's really well written.
Yep. I love these entries, and once again, you get the feeling for Adama, and at this point he's thinking to himself, these people are just desperate for peace, and I'm the military guy, just like I want to be prepared. That these politicians are just willing to do anything. So you get that, and if you remember the very first part of the show where he's standing at the peace conference and he's like, he's, and people are like, oh, you're not happy with this. This isn't popular with me. Those kind of things. That's in chapter 1, so I'm going too far on that. But he carries that. He'll carry a guilt throughout the entire series in his journals. You'll see, which is really gives you a face to Adama. It gives you a personality other than what you see on the show. You can generally get an idea of the personality on the show, but with these journal entries, you get more into that character.
Oh yeah, and that's the beauty of Lauren Green. He brings that seriousness, the gravitas of his character. You can tell that he's carrying along, this all of that. It's all on his shoulders, and he portrays it excellently, man. Reading the books and then watching the show, you're like,
yep.
This is it. It's like real. You're watching something that really happened to these people. I mean, look. The first time we watched this, we were seeing this through the eyes of 11, 12, maybe 10 years old, right? And then as you grow, you watch it again and again, like you do Star Trek, and reading the books and then reading them over, it still plays, man. It still plays.
And then you become a Galacta nut like us. So you just become a nut, and then you start really researching things and trying to get a hold of people. We're reaching out, trying to get a hold of Mr. Thurston. Anybody can get a hold of Mr. Thurston for us. He's 83 years old at this point in time. He's still alive.
Still with us. Yep.
He worked last we know he was working in New Jersey at one of the colleges there. So I reached out to the college to find out if we can get a hold of him. We'd love to get him on the show. If you happen to know, you can get a hold of him. Hey, we really appreciate you getting in touch with us.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
And let me tell you something. Chris, we're fans like any other fans, right?
Yeah.
And it just so happens that here on IFB we have a platform, and we're going to take the opportunity, take advantage of the fact that we can get into Battlestar Galactica as one show that we're really into. Yep. Just like there's fans that follow Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fan, but Galactica was always had that special somewhere in my heart. So here we are, right? We're talking about the nuances of writing between, the film itself, what we saw on television. By the way, Chris, just on a side note, did you actually go see it when it was in the movie theater?
Yes, a number of times.
Oh, you did?
A number of times, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that wasn't easy to do in Wyoming. That's where I grew up, so. The Rialto Theater in Wyoming.
Oh man, so you have one on me because the premiere of the movie itself, there was a Cylon in Manhattan in New York City, and
I've seen that picture.
I
don't know if that's where it's at, but I've seen a picture of a Cylon in front of the movie theater, and he's waving to kids and everything else.
Not able to go. However, my wife did. She did see the movie in the movie theaters, and she met one of the Cylons, but then again, she lived in Southern. Yes, there is a photo.
She got a photo of it?
Yep.
That'd be cool to see maybe next time.
Yes, Southern California, that's where the magic is. So, however, going back to then the nuances of the book itself and the show and some of the differences in the novels themselves, that's kind of where we're headed. We're looking to, I think, dissect a little bit more of we're setting it up, right? I think that's the best way to say it is we're setting up the differences. This is a unique book in terms of how it was presented, how the story was presented. It has all the backstory, I think, that anyone was looking for in terms of getting to know, the characters and the history, so to speak, of, the Battlestar Galactica world. And the Adama journals, man, are not to be missed. I can't recommend this any higher than.
I really enjoyed reading this book again. So if you guys haven't picked the book up, or guys and gals, I say guys a lot. Sorry, pick up that book. If you really pick up the book again and start reading along, you might you'd really enjoy it again, I think.